Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Yeah, that's what it's called. And boy, have I got a deal for you. I am shocked at the way this business operates, the classical music business. I really am. And I've wanted to talk about this particular composer and this particular music for a long time. And I'm so happy to finally have the chance. I'm speaking of Samuel Barber. This is the Naxos edition of his complete orchestral music. Now, Naxos has made so many discs and there's so much stuff out there that I'm not surprised that some stuff kind of gets lost in the shuffle. But this I don't understand at all. There is no other collection of Barber's orchestral music. And this one is wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It features Marin Alsop with the Royal Scottish National Orchestra. What could be bad? I mean, they've made some of the best recordings on Naxos. This is 6 discs. Who knew that Barber wrote that much orchestral music? But yes, there are 6 discs, and get this. I hesitate to talk about sources and prices and things because I know that these talks are being made for future generations. And when we're all living on Ganymede, we may not have the same opportunities to get CDs or buy from the same sellers, and everything will be digital and it's all going to be different and all that stuff. And I know that. But for those of you who are still into compact discs, and like physical product, I saw this on Amazon. The prices ranged from like $80-something to $17.95. It was crazy. But I can say from like a sane place that Presto Music in the UK, Presto Classical has this for less than $20. 6 CDs, the complete Barber orchestral music. I mean, if that isn't a steal, I don't know what is. Maybe it's because there's limited supplies or there's a special deal going on it. I don't know. All of the discs, all 6 discs here are available separately, and we're going to talk about what's on them. The performances, as I've said, are uniformly marvelous. They really are. I've reviewed most of the individual discs on ClassicsToday.com. You can go and have a look at those reviews if you like, separately, and I'll have some samples to play you too, in connection with this video. But wow! What an incredible deal. And Samuel Barber, as we all know, is one of the great American composers of the 20th century. He wrote marvelous, marvelous music, and it's all here. It's here, all of it, the whole thing. Let's look. Let's talk about what's on it, shall we? In no particular order, because they aren't in any particular order. They're not like volumes or anything. They're just 6 marvelous Barber CDs. I mean, it's just terrific. Barber is one of those composers who is just, his life was rather sad. After Antony and Cleopatra bombed, nobody much cared about his music, and he spent his last, decade or so basically living in seclusion because his music was considered hopelessly passé by members of the academic serial avant-garde, whatever they were. And so, he was somewhat bitter and neglected, and I just think that's so sad. His music is so beautiful. Even now, it seems not to be getting played all that much, but it really deserves to be cherished and loved and performed regularly because it's gorgeous. Gorgeous, wonderful music that's at once approachable and contemporary. It's obviously American, it's obviously modern, but it's so listenable and enjoyable. And the other thing about Barber that I think is so interesting is that his means of expression was rather compact. You think of like the essays for orchestra and some of these other short pieces, Music to a Scene from Shelley and the School for Scandal Overture and these pieces. He fit a lot of expression into a relatively small space. So he's a wonderful composer for our hurried modern lifestyle, if you want to call it that. Anyway, let's see what's on these discs, all right? First, here we have Knoxville, Summer of 1915. Knoxville, Summer of 1915, Essays for Orchestra numbers 2 and 3, and the wonderful Toccata Festiva for organ and orchestra with Thomas Trotter as the organist. That's pretty hot. That's hot stuff. I have to confess, Knoxville is not one of my favorite Barber pieces. You know what Knoxville is. It's sort of like a prose poem. by who I think was it James Agee who wrote it or whatever his name was. I don't know. I used to make fun of it with my friends. It's like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. I sit on the porch. The car goes by. We're sitting and, All right. It's not my favorite thing by Barber. That doesn't mean it's not a lovely work. And Karina Gauvin is the soloist. She sings it quite beautifully. My favorite performance is Dawn Upshaw's on Nonsuch, but still, I mean, what's not to love? And the second essay is hot, 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 hot. In fact, I'm going to play you a bit of the second essay, the part at the end, the part where the tam-tam comes in. This guy, it's just marvelous. It really shows Barber's ability to write, I think, music that is grand and noble, but never pompous and vulgar. I don't know. There's something about his expression that maybe that's the modernity in it. He's a romantic, but he's not one of those, hairy, vulgar romantics. It's not. He always keeps things in proportion. There's always a certain modesty to what he's doing, and not a modesty that means inexpressive or inhibited. Modest in terms of tasteful. He was a class act, Barber, in everything that he did. And here is the climax of the essay number 2. And of course, you've got the Royal Scottish National Orchestra with its wonderful brass section and those terrific French horns just ripping away at the tam-tam in the background. Oh, it's great. Just great. Just great. And the third essay, which nobody ever plays, is also marvelous. It's exciting. It's the biggest of all of them in some respects, and it really deserves to be performed. So this is a wonderful disc, even if it has Knoxville, summer of 1915, which sometimes drives me crazy. I mean, I could do this entire review. I could do this review like Knoxville, summer of 1915. Well, but I'm not going to. Next. Oh, here's like short and neoclassical type thingies. You get, that's this one. You get the Capricorn Concerto, a hand of bridge, which is lots of fun. Mutations from Bach. Now, that's a very brief piece. It's only about 6 minutes long. It's for brass and timpani. And Mutations from Bach, it consists of several versions of a chorale. It's kind of like Barber's answer to the Vaughan Williams, the 5 variants of Dives and Lazarus. It's almost Barber's version of that conceptually. So you hear early versions, then Bach's version, and then Barber's version of all of the same tune. It's quite marvelous. It really is. And then you get the intermezzo from Vanessa and the canzonetta for oboe and strings, and his last major work, Photograph of a Yestern Scene. So that's number 2. Number 3. Oh, this is called Orchestral Works Volume 1. All right. So they were called Volume something. I don't see any other volume. Oh, there's Volume 2. Wait a minute. There's Volume 2. And then after that, they just gave up and did the rest of them. All right. So Volume 1 has symphonies numbers 1 and 2 and the School for Scandal Overture. Now, the second symphony, as you know, was withdrawn by Barber, but fortunately the part survived and now it can be played. This is quite handily the best performance of it that we have. It's a marvelous work. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. Barber preserved the middle movement. Remember, he called it Night Flight as a separate piece. But here it is in context, and it's wonderful to hear. And the first symphony, of course, is a minor masterpiece of the genre, of the sort of based on Sibelius 7, all 3 movements rolled into one kind of piece. It's a terrific work. Bruno Walter conducted it. I mean, there's lots of good performances of the first symphony, but this one is very good too. Orchestral Works Volume 2. such as they are. Okay, the cello concerto. I love the cello concerto. I love the opening. The opening tune, da 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 ba da da da. There's something about that melody. I don't know. It's very catchy. It's stuck in my head anyway. But I think everything sticks in my head. So, what difference does that make? Then you get the Medea ballet suite. The whole ballet suite. The half an hour's worth of ballet of Medea and the Adagio for strings. Now, volume not 3, I guess you'd call it. Not 3. You get the violin concerto. Oh, the cellist. Let's talk about the cellist. Wait a minute, because it's a wonderful performance. It's Wendy Warner, who is superb. Absolutely superb. And also, for the violin concerto, you have James Buswell, who is also superb. The violin concerto is enormously popular, of course. I think it's still popular. The reference recording for that was the old Stern Bernstein, which is just amazing. But this is, it's great. It's fabulously well done. You get the Souvenirs Ballet Suite, the Serenade for Strings, Opus 1, and the yummy, luscious music for a scene from Shelley. That would make a great accompaniment to like a Frankenstein movie, even though it's not Mary Shelley, it's the other Shelley, Percy Bysshe Shelley, the other Shelley guy. But who cares? It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of music. And it has a big tam-tam swat, the climax of it. And finally, here's the tam-tam swat, just so you have one. There we go. I know I get regular requests to do that. So there we are. And now, finally, last but not least, we get the piano concerto. The piano concerto is just a great, great work. And this is really just about the only performance that I think compares favorably to the original, the Zell John Browning, which is really unbeatable. It's one of the great classic recordings of a modern work. But this is a terrific performance too. Finally, we get a performance that doesn't wimp out on the finale. I don't understand why that happens. Sometimes it sounds so labored and you're supposed to just blast your way through it. It's exciting as all hell. And here's a little bit of it, just so you get a sense of how good it really is. The pianist is Stephen Prutzman. And Prutzman is really, really, really good in this piece. Let me tell you, he just wails on it here. Marvelous, isn't it? Absolutely first rate. And also on this disc is Die Natale, which is a piece based on Christmas carols, arranged quite cleverly by Barber. I'm not sure why this doesn't get played. Like the Vaughan Williams Fantasia on Christmas carols gets trotted out every 15 minutes during the Christmas season, but Barber's piece never, and it's really better. I hate to say it. It's substantial. It's 17 minutes long. It's a beautiful work. And then you have Medea's Meditation and Dance of Vengeance. Oh, we love that, don't we? I have to tell you a little Medea story. Back in the day, I did a lot of work making skating routines for, Olympic skaters or quasi wannabe Olympic skaters and, competition skaters. And, that was before, nowadays the musical requirements for figure skating have been thrown out the window. It's just, go do a thing, set it to anything you want, skate for 4 minutes. That's what it is. It's very freestyle. But in those days when I was working on it, things were extremely, extremely rigid. You had to have a fast section and a slow section and a this section, and it all had to have the correct changes of mood. And I said, and they all wanted the same thing. First of all, there are all these, these extremely obsessive compulsive young, mostly female ice skaters and their unbelievably neurotic parents who are coached by these completely bananas, psychotic, ex-Russian Bolshoi ballerina choreographer ladies. You got to see these people. Madame Pikotratskaya. They would show up at these competitions with their fur mink hat and their long mink coats. They were the choreographers. They weren't the skating coaches, of course. They were choreographers, and they were ballerinas. And my God, were they nuts! And they only knew two pieces of music. They knew Swan Lake, and they knew the 18th variation from Rachmaninoff's Paganini Rhapsody, and some of them knew Carmen. And that's all they ever wanted, because obviously, first of all, these are young teenage girls who, are generally not into classical music. And second of all, they wanted, what the famous ice skater did. So here I was sitting here with, the overflow room in the record collection. I did the Emperor Concerto as a skating routine. I made hundreds of 4-minute long skating routines, carefully and artfully edited from major classical pieces. And one of them that I did was Medea's Dance of Vengeance, because I said to these girls, I said, you're always trying to be so sweet and so sugary. It's just revolting. Why don't you do Medea? This is terrific. The music is exciting and rhythmic. It's a rumba. It's da 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 dum ba 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 da ba bum ba 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 da ba bum ba ba ba. It's just great, and it's got this huge, passionate, lyrical central climax, and then a whirlwind finale. You could spin around like a supersonic top at the end of it. It's just a knockout, right? I said to these girls, I said, think of it this way: you've just gotten married. Your husband is cheated on you, or is running away and abandoning you, or something like that. You're pissed as hell at him, so you murder your own children. It's terrific for an ice skating routine. Enough of being a cute little sugar plum or a black swan. Do Medea. Well, none of them did Medea. But listen to it and imagine some teenage ice skaterette whizzing around the rink to this. Wow. Great stuff. Oh, and you also get the Commando March as a little 3.5 minute, 3 minute and 47 second bonus. So there you go. Here they all are. I'm going to stick them back in their box. Marin Alsop with the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, fabulous soloists in the concertos, and in Knoxville, summer of 1915. That's wonderful. Yeah, okay. And it's the complete Barber orchestral music for less than $20 at Presto Classical. You can't go wrong. You have to have this. It's wonderful that Naxos has it. And you don't see this. You don't know it even exists. There's no marketing happening. There's no promotion. This is an absolutely unique collection of Barber's orchestral music in first-class performances. I don't know how many different ways I can say it. They say that when you don't have anything to say, you should sing it. But I already tried to do that, and it didn't come out too well, did it? So keep on listening, folks, to Samuel Barber on Naxos. Thank you. Take care.